Hi, I'm Jenyce. Today's episode of Authentic Living is so much fun. I get to interview a friend of mine. Her name is Aubrey Sanchez. Aubrey is a thought leader, and she has overcome so many deeply painful challenges in her life, including some hidden psychological abuse during childhood. But today, Aubrey is a mother of five wonderfully unique children. She is a wife in a marriage that is healing, and she is the founder and CEO of the award-winning interior design firm, Autumn Rose. She is also a leader in a movement called the Beauty for the Soul movement. As a coach, a speaker, and an international retreat host, she will soon be a published author. Stay tuned while I have a really great conversation with my friend Aubrey. So I'd like to hear a little bit about your background. If you could just share with us about your design business and about your coaching business.
So, yeah, I'm like, there's a lot I can share. The really quick version is probably I have moved around a lot. I grew up thinking I had a fairly normal home, but kind of unpacking over the years all the psychological abuse that was going on. And I started my family really young. I have five kids. They are currently ages 14 down to 6. So it's a crazy time of life. And while I was having my kids, like I was, really getting deep into that I was not okay. And that's what led to me starting the business is I already knew, like I had studied interior design in college. I knew it was on my heart to do that and that it meant a lot to me. It wasn't just like, oh, it's fun and trendy sort of a thing. It was like a deeper than that um, modality for me. And in fact, the first iteration of it, I called it home therapy. It was always this idea for me that this was like a therapeutic thing, but I felt like I had to raise my kids first and just do that because they were the most important. And I got so low to where like I didn't believe that I was what they needed because I wasn't okay. And so I didn't know how to show up for them. And so that was when my fourth was a baby. So that kick started me jumping in and starting the business about 6 years ago. So yeah, that's so that started as an interior design business. It was just me, and now I have a team, and we have a lot of fun. And as that's been going well, I've more and more been stepping into leading out on my innovative ideas around design, and that we're not just doing design services. We're now teaching a program. I'm writing a book, podcast, and starting to host retreats, which is a lot of fun. So that's like where it's taking me is sharing my message using my voice and teaching people about how their physical spaces affect them on an energetic level and what we can do to harness that and to use our home and our workspaces and our neighborhoods to nurture ourselves on a soul level. So
I love that. So nurturing ourselves on a soul level, utilizing our space because it does affect us energetically. Amazing. I just want you to know that somebody read my chart several years ago, my astrological chart, and one of the things that came up was, and when he told me, this is one of the first things he read off there. He goes, Dawn, you have to be surrounded by beauty. You have to. And I just burst into tears because it just explained why I am the way I am. It gave me oh, then it's okay to be like that. And he goes, it's part of who you are. You can't help it.
beautiful. I love that you had that spoken and voiced. So, at that point in your life, because the fact is, most of us have been taught to minimize that value. Like, if that's a value of ours, if that's a part of what we want and need in the world, we've been taught that that's materialistic. It's all these like negative, almost like anti spiritual ideas around loving beauty and caring about how our home looks and feels, how our dress on our bodies looks and feels like all of that. Yeah. So it's cool that you had that voice because it probably still was a process for you to really embrace it.
Yes, it's a process. All of this stuff is
Mm.
as we learn it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
to unlearn behavior that's and old beliefs that aren't healthy. That's a process to sort of shed those and then embrace the truth is it's kind of a fun process to
Yeah.
it's fun to go through it and to bloom. Let's use a beauty
Yes.
term, to bloom.
And when you're having fun with it, it goes so much better because it's, learning isn't like a straight line, right? We try things and we go like, oh, okay, I totally went out on a limb there and I didn't even like it. Or, I really don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm going for it anyway, right? And so when you can have that fun in there and have an attitude of it's a process and it's fun along the way, then you can approach it a little more like a little kid. And little kids are amazing at learning. They just soak up languages like a sponge. Like they learn really well because they don't get too hung up on whether they're perfect yet. They just try things and have fun with it, and they make sounds that don't even make sense yet, but they're trying, right?
Talk about a great example of being authentic. Hang around a little kid for a while and you learn
Heck yeah.
what authenticity is. Yeah. I mean, even watching a child decorate their room themselves, it tells you something about who they are. And so this concept that you have, I know you've got Autumn Rose, which is your design firm, but you also have Beauty for the Soul movement. That's your thought leadership. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I've been playing around with like the title of my book. So, obviously, like I'm halfway through writing it. I'm still going to be going, through things with the publisher. So these things could change, but I am excited about the working title that I have right now for it. And it's Your Soul Needs Beauty.
Oh.
And the whole idea is, that was the great reaction.
I mean, it just
Awesome.
spoke to me.
And I think this is the first public forum I'm sharing that on. So you guys are on the front row seats. But that's the whole idea, is taking the idea of beauty. And like, I could have left it out of the title because there's so much baggage with that word. But that's the whole point for me, is to take that and pull it out and say, hey, let's look at this word. Let's talk about it. And your soul needs it. And beauty does come in more ways than just visual ways, but let's not minimize the visual ways because we rely on our sight more than any other sense. And so the visual beauty is a big part of it. And it's also the conversations that are beautiful, the scent and the taste and all these other things that we're experiencing in life. We need that beauty to feed ourselves on a soul level, and we've been lacking in that nourishment. And so we have like a phrase I'm starting to play with is beauty deficit disorder, meaning we have basically a nutrient deficit
Mm.
around not having enough beauty in our environment. And that is making it harder for us to cope with other things in life that are challenging and hard. So it makes it so we're not as resilient on a soul level to handle the things that come at us in life. So what exactly was the question though? Because I don't even know if I fully, just the name of the movement, right? Yeah, the Beauty for the Soul movement. So it's reshifting that word and starting to realize that this is actually like a spiritual need that we have,
Mm.
so that we can start taking it seriously and doing something about it.
So I have a lot of questions around that. So bear with me as I ask a lot of them. Okay.
Please.
So first of all, yes, the word beauty we're talking about right now, and the connotation of it being skin level, of it being not authenticity, of like we're talking about women's makeup, hair, clothing, whatever, even our spaces. But I know that I've learned in my life, and it's been part of this psychological movement, that like blue is a calming color, or clutter makes us anxious, things like that. What do you think caused that deficit to be a thing? Why does our society frown on the concept of beauty, especially in your spaces?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could get me talking for stuff. So I'm like, my brain's like, okay. Yeah. So first of all, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, everyone has different, spiritual beliefs, ways of interacting with their spiritual identity, um, and and different perspectives on society. And we're all in microclimates as far as the society we're in, because, maybe we grew up in a different like religious setting or a different part of the world or part of the country. All of those things have a part to play here. So someone else's experience might be a little different than mine. But here's what I've seen and observed for myself and in general is, first of all, a lot of religious movements have taught uh, people to shy away from beauty. I believe partially as a misguided effort to try to be more holy, but it's based on a misunderstanding of what embodiment in this earth experience means and what it's about and what it's for. Almost like our spirit is at war with our body. And so we have to deny, pleasure in general, focusing on bodies or on the physical world because we got to focus on the spiritual. So stop focusing here. It's sort of I think it's a false dichotomy, but it's a fundamental like, oh, well, we feel like the physical stuff is taking over. We're trying to focus on our spirit. So we're going to shut it down. We're going to try to just ignore and devalue like the body and the earth and those things that are tangible. And what I believe is more true is that there is some tension between maybe the needs of my body and the needs of my soul, my spirit, um, and finding beautiful harmony there where they both matter is where actual spiritual growth happens. And so, yeah. So whether that was, unintentional and misguided, whether the purpose of some of those people was to control and shut down people, like I see more than one thing happening because we're not a monolith, right? Different leaders have done different things with different motives. So I don't need to go there too much. But then the other thing that happened was the modern movement that was post-industrial. So post-industrial revolution, where you started to have this sort of concept that we are advanced and progressive because we shun the frivolous. This is more of like a secular side of it. We shun the frivolous, over the top. We're kind of like penduluming away from like the Rococo movement and all the swirly scrolls and all the decorative everything. We're going like, oh, we're tired of that. And we're trying to see like how progressive we can be. And we're about function and we're practical and we're driving into the era, right? And I think innovation by nature, when you're leaving one way behind and going towards a new way, there's the risk of losing some of what was valuable and good here. Maybe you didn't even realize how much you needed it because you were used to it. It was just something that was taken for granted. And now it's an unintended side effect of the shift that just happened is we neglected this too much. We thought that we didn't need it and that we were being progressive, and we ignored how much beauty matters to human well-being. And so we built cities all around progress and concrete and cars and electricity, and all these things became the new like values and status symbols of this modernism. And even the quote, I talk about this in my book, but the quote, form follows function, which was this whole, we started thinking of that as a hierarchy, like function is more important, it's better. The quote itself actually discusses how important beauty is. Like the man that wrote that was talking about how beautiful things in nature are, and that the form comes from the function, meaning they go together. The form that something takes is based on what it needs to do to function. And that harmony is like really beautiful and wonderful. So like a bird takes its beauty and its form from its function of flying and doing the things that it does. And that's what lends to its beauty. So it was never intended to be like a war between function or how something looks. They're supposed to go together beautifully. Anyway, like I said, I could go on to that one, but I think that's a pretty good summary at least. And in the United States, we were not as far along on building like our cities and our towns and even our laws that govern how we build. We weren't as far along that process when cars were showing up on the scene and when all these things were dictating it. And so our cities and our, especially our suburbs, are very car centric and not so human focused as well. So, because you're not taking it from the medieval, paths that people were walking and the humanness, it was going from cars, and then people are going to adapt around the cars instead. So
Wow, I mean, there's gonna be like 4 chapters on that, it sounds like, in the book, because
no,
so
I'm such a nerd. I'm always like, how much do people want to know? Because
I
let's
do.
have some fun.
I think it's fascinating, and I think it helps everything make sense. Why the pendulum has swung, and just like you were saying about the form versus function quote that was taken out of context. I think a lot of things, as far as how we decorate, how we look, is taken out of context or taken too far. Like you were saying, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the whole old European look was so in, with all the kind of almost, well, it's a negative word, but the sort of gaudy, columns, and everything was so big and so massive and so curly, and had so much, yeah, ornate, had so much texture, etc. to it. And then now the minimalist movement has become so big that it's like it was almost a religion, to, and I get it, to be conservative, to like look out for nature and not waste and all that. I'm totally on board with that, but it's been taken to the degree that it's almost painfully ugly, and and it loses the beauty that we actually crave.
Personally, I believe that balance that, we're sort of looking for, that's that healthier flow to be in. I think that we find that when people start being true to themselves, because I think there's already a lovely diversity and balance and harmony in just who we are as people. Like everyone brings sort of these balancing yin and yang like characteristics to the world. And I think the pendulum is way worse when things are validation based and like trying to fit in, be good enough, keep up with everyone else, keep up with the trends, because then we're all racing to the whatever direction, we're being told is the cool direction. And it's like everyone pile onto this side of the scale. Okay, now everyone pile on over here. And it's just it's pandemonium. And no one, really loves any of it that much. We're not attached. We're just trying to fit in and be good enough and be trendy. And it's the same with like, like personal beauty stuff, right? Like what's trendy? What's, like, am I supposed to get a boob job or a butt job this year? Like I can't keep track, like it's like everything is going like telling us to all stampede this way or that way. And I believe that the healthy beauty of this earth is found in embracing the diversity and letting it be one thing for someone and something else for someone else. And then when people are being true to themselves and getting inspiration from each other, like I don't think we should be like, no, don't look around, blinders. I just think I should be inspired by what I see someone else doing or what I see in a magazine, and then choose to be more of myself and get fresh and playful with it because I'm getting ideas from here and here. And then we can all sort of settle the heck down and just create something authentic for each of us and then interact with that with each other. And it's not a rat race. So
I love it. Before I actually met you last year at about this time in Chicago, uh, I had this like sort of this download about, I need to really focus on making my space authentic instead of going with the latest design trend, or the way that I've been taught that a bed should look in a room or whatever, or have so many pillows, or just to have just enough accent pieces and the right colors, etc. How about if I just make it me? How about if I just, so what if I have a piece that's mid-century modern and a piece that's Victorian in the same room. If I love them and it brings me joy, it's kind of like the whole spark joy thing.
And it bring you joy, then when I walk in that room, I'm gonna feel you. I'm gonna be enveloped in the beautiful energy of who you are. And that's amazing, right? And then I'm gonna step into my own home if I've done the same, and I'm gonna be enveloped in my own energy. And that's gonna fuel me and help me to remember to be aligned with who I am. And then I'm going to step out in the world and be invited into your home through Zoom or in real life. And and I'm going to step into Dawn's energy enveloping me and giving me a big hug. You know, like I'm going to feel amazing, even if it's very different than how I feel amazing in my own house. And it's so freaking beautiful.
Yeah, it's like our space, our home. Home is such a like a strong word. And I just talked to Rosalind about this a little bit ago. But home, that word, everybody can sort of relate to that place that where we can just, take our bra off, you know what I mean? Just get real and comfortable. And it's an extension of my energy. Like that's exactly what you're saying to make it that. And then when people are invited in that are people that I want in my home, that um, they get to learn more about who I am. And then we see how our energies mix within that space too, which is so fun.
This gets to one of the reasons that stops people from doing this. Okay. There's a couple reasons that I run into constantly with people. One is what you just now said. That can be scary, especially if someone has trauma or a lot of fears. It's scary to let yourself be seen and known and experienced in a real way, in an authentic way, because then some people are going to say, nah, that's not for me. And that scares people into paralysis and into, beige everything. Like they don't want to risk being rejected for who they really are. And so they don't even want it to be seen. Um, and that is one of the big things that stops people. The other one is just like the need for validation, which is very related, but slightly different. But we all grow up needing validation, and then we get to mature past that to where we learn to self-validate and we learn to not be desperate for others to just confirm to us who we are. But yeah, this is one of the huge reasons that people freeze up and get scared and don't want to move forward. It might package itself as I don't have money, or my kids are young right now, and they'll just destroy everything, and it's just not the right time, or yeah, there's all these, oh, I don't have the skills, all these reasons that we use why we can't do it. But often that's actually just protecting our fear of being seen and known.
Wow. So you have a program that helps us with that, don't you?
Actually, I had so much fun whenever, like, when you were coming on my event this summer, and I was like, hey, remind me what your group is called. I'm in it, but like, remind me what it's called, and you were telling me it was like authentic living for brave female leaders. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I named my program before I realized that you were using that so much, and I recently found out what your podcast was called. And I'm just like, that's so cool because my program is named Authentic Home. And that's literally the whole, and I'm just like, oh yeah. Well, every time you open your mouth, Dawn, I'm just and share things and insights about the world, I'm always like, yeah, what she said, listen to her.
Ah,
So we both love that word for a reason because it's a big part of what we're doing, right? So yeah, that's the purpose of that program, is that you're in a community where others are also working on this. It's totally safe to celebrate what's going well and what you just, did for the first time. And it's also a safe place to share the freakouts or the stress or the barriers and to work through those. And yeah, it's the kind of thing that even if you do eventually work with an interior designer, because you're building a new home or you're ready to do something bigger, having done that, you will be in a better position to voice what it is that you're looking for and wanting and who you are, and you'll know yourself. So you can do that. And you can learn so much about how to make progress now even if you're not working with a designer, or and even if you don't have a budget at all. Like just being aware of this and learning yourself what you need, you can start to even just move around what you do have, get rid of something, you know, buy a couple things at Goodwill that really are key pieces that are starting to bring more of what you're needing. Like it's that kind of thing. It's that momentum. So
I remember once I saw this really cute, it was just like a whimsical little orange and red and yellow lamp at a store, at this little
Mhm.
whimsical store. And I didn't buy it. I left the store and I just like thought about that lamp for like 3 weeks. And I'm like, I need that lamp. I don't care what it costs. I need that lamp. So I went back and I bought a lamp and my entire home got decorated around that lamp.
Oh, see? Yeah, that's
I mean,
beautiful.
it's something
That's
that you
perfect.
see at Goodwill that you love, that somebody else has like given up and you love it. I feel like that's a great inspirational piece to start with, right?
It's from Goodwill. It's my favorite color of green and it's got zebras on it.
Oh, I
It's so
love
fun.
it.
It's so
Goodwill.
fun.
Great.
And it feels comfortable on me. So like that's my whole thing is like finding wardrobe pieces that are comfortable and I feel like I can just hang out with my dogs on the couch with it. And I can also go like step into a boardroom and, command a presence in a business setting. Like those are things I'm working on. So yeah, no, it's not about how old your kids are right now, how much time you have, how much money you have. It's about getting to know yourself, overcoming that resistance to letting yourself be seen and known. And then you get to tap into how powerful your environment actually is, because it is, and it's affecting you whether you get intentional about it or not. And so when you get intentional, every little change you make totally matters and they add up. So
I want to talk about that lamp and this whole idea that you just talked about. When I think about why I didn't buy that lamp in the first place, because I did love it, was that it didn't go. It didn't go with what I had in my house. It
there
wasn't
you go.
the style that I had decided I was going to do my home in a year
Mhm.
before. And so what I realized when I bought that lamp was it was the evolution of who I had become at that time, who I was being. It was a stage in my life where I wanted more brightness and creativity and whimsy in my life.
Yeah.
And so it's really, I mean, what we surround ourselves with, the things, the physical things and the colors and everything, it really is a reflection of how we want to be at that time. I mean, at least I feel like for me, that's the way I want to go. Is that part of what you're doing with your movement, is helping people figure that out?
100%. Like, and things, metrics like, the quizzes that will tell you like your style and they're going to pick, 6 styles and they have names and they're based on different periods in time or whatever. Like I learned all that in school. It's helpful to know, but that's not really what it's about. It's actually that exact tuning into your own self. And like, yeah, I do. I help people to kind of take really abstract ideas of what they want to feel emotionally or just kind of who they are and who they're trying to be more authentically about themselves and translate that into, colors and textures and real things that you can go implement, right? And a big part of it is just listening to yourself because you're gonna know. Just like when get rid of the food things that numb your gut, like just sugar addiction and all that, you start to actually be able to hear what your body's craving and it's something really good for you. It's something that you need.
Yeah.
So your love story is freaking perfect. I love it. That's the kinds of things that like lead to just knowing yourself better. And I like that afterwards you were able to sort of realize, oh, I want to go this direction with the other things that don't go right now. And um that it was about that need for more energy and whimsy and fun. Like that's exactly how this works. So yeah, we do. We play with like seeing the world in more of like an abstract creative visual art sort of way. Like take off your judgment goggles and your logic brain and pay attention to the emotions, the textures, the colors, the smells, like all those things. And then you can see patterns like, oh, well, we do an exercise where it's like your favorite place to go on vacation, your favorite memory, just these you take these reference points and you pay attention to the tangible aspects of it. And then you can start finding patterns and going, ooh, I'm craving more of this in my home, or like I need more chunky textures, or I need more dark, moody colors, or whatever those things are. So it's fun. I get
And
excited.
I get excited too. I love hearing you talk about this stuff. I really do believe that. I mean, I was telling myself for a while because I'm very sentimental. I'm very like my grandparents were really important to me, my great grandparents, because I knew them. I'm old. I'm the oldest child in the whole family, and so I had great grandparents when I was in college, and I have a few things from my great grandparents and a lot of things from my grandparents because they were like parents to me. And I went through this stage where I'm like, I can't keep all of this stuff. It's just like, I don't want to store it all. I don't want to have it out because it doesn't go with the style that I'm supposed to have or whatever. And then I was like telling myself, their soul doesn't live in this space, and that is true. But at the same time, that vase has energy. That vase
100%.
gives me a type of energy from looking at it and touching it. And so I'm getting what you're saying here, Aubrey, is that our space and the things that we surround ourselves with affect our energy.
And that can be for good and for bad, right? So my clutter can affect my energy in a negative way, or things I'm clinging to because maybe I'm just going to play off of what you just shared. Like, let's say I have an item and it does remind me of that person that I love and I have fond memories of. And that particular item also is associated with some maybe not so positive things about my experience with the world or who I am authentically. So maybe it's the wrong colors, or, there's something about it that is kind of also fighting with my own energy. There's options here. Like I can take that piece. I have done this. I had a piano that was my mom's. It was ours growing up when I was a child. It was, my mom loved to play the piano. I only play a little bit, but, and then it was my grandparents before it was hers. And they bought it at an antique store a long time ago. So it's not one of the like nice brand pianos that like holds their value, but it was special to me. And it was getting old enough that like the wires were all starting to snap, and the color of the wood not only did it not go with my house, it didn't feed me like what I needed from as far as the visual look. So I got it refinished. I
Nice.
put a lot of I did it myself. I have refinished furniture. I like doing it, but I knew it was going to take me, years to get around to. So I did pay someone to do it, but like I didn't have to. But the point is, like, it's now a matte black, kind of a warm matte black color, new wires in it, and everything. And it's special to me, but it doesn't look like it did, you know. And flip side, you can also take someone special and you can also share meaning and energy with items. So I can also go look for something that does reflect, my need for a certain type of beauty right now that represents something I love about that person, like that brings their energy in because of what it means to me. Like this reminds me of my grandparents, and it's a new piece of art, or it's something that is resonating with me now, and I'm bringing that important person into my space in a different way, like in an abstract way, because that can still affect us, right? So I think when we're hanging on to something because we should, or we're afraid to sort of heal enough that we're okay letting it go, or any of that stuff, or I'm a bad daughter if I get rid of this piece of furniture, that is like that's shooting on yourself. Don't do that to yourself. the flip side is you're right, that you can connect with that person through that item and in other ways. And so does their soul live in it? No. Can you get rid of it? Yes. Can you keep it and choose to find ways to honor it or change the look of it or find a way that you can feel, great about it in your space and use that as a way to connect with them? Absolutely, because it does have energy. It has real energy, but it doesn't have to, you know what I mean? I have a necklace that I love that was my husband's grandmother's. And, I chose that one because I loved it. But if someone had given me one I would never wear, I'm not gonna have that hanging there and like guilting me for not wearing it or, or being something I don't enjoy looking at because that's not even a positive association for me to be having in my connection with that person.
Yes.
Every time I see it, I think that's kind of ugly, but
Mhm.
I love you. you
Right.
know, that's like, what does that really help with our connection to that person? Like, wouldn't it be better to have something that is authentic for me and for that person and brings us together?
Oh, I love everything you have to say. It just resonates with me, and I'm sure it's resonating with all of you out there that are listening to this podcast because you're all about authentic living. And it's a struggle for those of us that are the keeper of the family's heirlooms. It's a struggle. So I have a whole other house full of family heirlooms that I'm gonna have to decide what to do with. So uh,
Yeah, and
yeah.
there's no one right way. You can do one piece every month. Or you can take one Saturday and go like, I'm gonna do this and then step into the next part of my life. Like there's no wrong or right way. That's that diversity piece. What you're gonna love is diverse from someone else, and how you're gonna approach it is different than someone else. That's fine.
So great. So just I have another question about your background.
Yeah.
So you talk about, and you're so honest about the fact that you have hidden psychological abuse during childhood, and now you've got 5 kids, and you have you're married, and you're doing all this. You're helping the world become more authentic with their spaces and by surrounding themselves with beauty. How did you make that transition from, you know, being in a place where you weren't happy with yourself and you were struggling to doing this work right now? What happened? How did you get here?
Oh man, yeah. Uh, I guess you can hear in my voice, right? Like it's been intense. Um, though I have to have so much grace with myself because it never looks up to the standards that I like have for myself, which are totally perfectionistic and not help. I mean, you know what I mean? I have these standards for like what killing it would look like or what, and they're always way above what I'm actually doing. But the reality is like I'm right where I need to be. Like I'm learning what I need to learn. I'm evolving and growing and blooming and it's all happening perfectly. Like I would never go out and take the buds in my garden and like pry them open, like you're supposed to be like, but I do that to myself, right? You're supposed to look like this to be a perfect rose right now. Like, what? No, right? And you don't go help the chick undo the like. So anyway, I'm talking in kind of abstract, but that's like what's really on my heart about it. It's like it gets to unfold how it needs to. It gets to be freaking messy. It's sometimes like getting up and getting done up, even if I don't feel like it, and walking out the door to go meet with a client and go, show up for myself, even if I don't feel like it. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm going to be in bed most of the day today, but maybe at some point I'm up to answering a few emails from bed on my phone. It's it's a process and it takes a long time. I don't know, but I've gotten a lot of support. I that choice I told you to start my business, that was a huge step forward for me. I was undercharging like crazy and not valuing myself yet. But you know what was beautiful growth for me? Having a business, thinking of myself as a business owner. That was the growth right then. And I wasn't charging enough and I wasn't seeing I worked for a lot of like narcissistic people that took advantage of me, you know what, but it was still progress. And then I started learning like, oh, I'm actually worth more than this. Oh, I actually, and I started to have a team. And then the identity crisis was like, oh, wait, I'm a boss now? Like, that's crazy. I don't think I'm good enough for that. So at every step, it's like grappling with whether my identity actually gets to be that thing.
Mm.
And then and it's messy. And then finally I go, okay, actually that feels kind of normal. I've run a team for a while now. Oh, but I'm not like a speaker. I'm not like a public speaker. It's always, it's like all these levels, but I've gone to different therapies. The main thing has been putting myself in communities and circles of women who like you, who are doing it also, who I get to look over and go, yeah, but she's clearly up for, leading a business or, and then I get to talk to them and they completely resonate with things that I'm experiencing. And I go like, oh yeah, they've dealt with crap too. Oh yeah, they have bad hair days. Oh, they have, oh, they're just humans. And so am I. It helps me to rewire that because I go, wait a minute, like this is actually who I am and I'm surrounding myself with people. So that's probably the biggest piece is being around people. I also just like binge nonfiction books. I listen to like audio, but I educate myself constantly. And that's not everyone's style, but it is mine because I'm a nerd. So as a mom, audiobooks are my best friend because then I still have my eyes and my hands available to do all the things. But I have to remind myself to pick up a fiction book every once in a while and just chill the heck out because otherwise I'm constantly like, what's the next business book I need to read? What's the next complex PTSD book I need to read? What's the next thing? But I enjoy it. So don't do that if that's not authentic for you. But that's what I've done.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm a self-help book junkie and I have a whole library of them. But I do enjoy it. It is authentically me. It's what I enjoy. And I like science. I like why. I like the why. I need to know the
Yes.
why. And so
Same.
so great. But your journey is not unlike most of ours, where sometimes we just step into fear and just like show up. And all of a sudden, we struggle for a little bit because it's new. We're the new girl and in the room and new girl in the school or whatever. And after a while, we fit in and we are a part of, and then we grow out of, and then we move on again.
And
And
then in the different room. Yeah. Totally.
yeah, it's a process. But the key is just making a step, one step forward. So
And I even used to think of it visually because I would think of it as like trying to climb a mountain or something. And I was like, sometimes I don't have it in me to take another step, but that doesn't mean I have to go back down the mountain. I don't have to say, oh, well, I can't do it. So much for all this progress I've made. I'm just going to go back. It's like when the best I can do is just lay there, but at least eat something, or, like whatever that thing is I can do. Um, I think I picture it as like I'm climbing up this mountain, but I'm gonna stop in this cave and I'm gonna stay here for the night or lay down for a little bit. Like I just think of it that way and I'm like, hey, it doesn't mean I'm failing and it doesn't mean I should give up. Like this is just where I am right now. And then, the next morning or 2 days later or whatever it is, like I get back out
yeah.
of the cave and I keep going up, right? Like I'm not giving up on myself, but this is what I have right now.
You need to rest. We need
So
to rest. Sometimes we need to just pause and see where we've been and see where we are and be.
mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. Aubrey, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being who you are and showing up for all of us today and sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom and your gifts with us. So we look forward to having you back, maybe. Okay, awesome.
Awesome. How have you done?
Great.
Uh,
Thanks again. And thank you, all of you that are listening on your podcast app or watching this on YouTube. Please like and share this because everybody needs to know Aubrey. And we will be back next time on Authentic Living.